Hello. Thank you so much to everyone for being on tonight. This is the White Dudes for Harris first organizing call. We're going to be doing these every week from now through Election Day on Tuesday nights. And we thought that they were really important for us to do because we wanted to be able to give people real actions that they can take. I got my start as an organizer in high school working for the former mayor of Dallas, Texas, when he was running for U.S. Senate against John Cornyn in 2002. So that was John Cornyn's first race that he won. I got hooked, and I've been organizing ever since. We wanted to do these calls to give you guys a place to get into action. The idea is for folks to get fired up, to learn something. Special thanks to our partners at the National Democratic Training Committee, and to hear about potential volunteer opportunities that you can get involved in. Tonight, you'll hear from some awesome folks, including Sean Astin, who's an activist and actor, who's known for iconic roles in The Goonies and maybe Goonies 2, Rudy, which is one of my favorite movies, and the Lord of the Rings trilogy. You'll also get an awesome training from Kelly Dietrich, who is the CEO of the National Democratic Training Committee. And last but not least, a former colleague and friend of mine, who is currently the Battleground States Director for the Harris Walls campaign, Dan Cannonen. We're really, really excited to have all of these folks on today. And with that, I am going to just kick it to one of my favorite humans that I've just gotten to know over the last couple of months, Sean Astin. Sean, all you.
Wow, all me. Well, hello there, everybody. Hey, Ross. What can I say? What are we at? 49 days now? Is that what we've got left? 49 days. Look at your haircut. Oh no, that's Kelly. Kelly, sorry, I thought you were Ross. I'm like, Ross, what did you do? Yeah, no, it is. It is you. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I just signed on late. My computer crashed. Okay, focusing up now. 49 days left, and the folks on the other side are going dark. They are going dark. They're doing everything they can, flailing, throwing everything at the kitchen sink just to try and steal the news cycle. And what I'm just loving is that we're just staying the course, staying positive, staying focused, and it just means that this work that we're doing right now, that you're all about to do right now, is going to make the difference between winning and losing. I don't know how this is not a 50 state blowout. I don't even know. I'm not trying to stay positive here, but if what all of the professionals say is true, that it's, could come down to tens or hundreds of thousands of votes in a few key places, then this is what makes a difference. This kind of training, this kind of work. So I don't know if anybody, are folks going to be making phone calls and going to be doing, yeah. So if you've never done this work before, it is hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. You're like, wait, so I'm just like talk to people? Like, well, I don't get it. Wait, I'm just gonna say hi. And the first couple times you do it, there's like a little bit of I don't know, performance anxiety, it's a little kind of anxiety producing. The first time I ever canvassed, this is my favorite story to tell in all of my political life. It was like 2008, and I was flown by the campaign to El Paso, Texas, and I was told I was going to go canvassing. I didn't know what canvassing was, but I wasn't going to be, I didn't want to look stupid, so I was just like, great, canvassing, let's go canvassing, whatever that means. And I was put with this little old woman, Hispanic woman, who, I mean, I'm talking, she's really like my mom's height, like 4'10", something like that. I don't know how tall she is, but she's short. And we went walking just like house to house. And there was a bunch of cameras that were following us. There's a CNN camera. And I remember I was kind of like, how do you pose? How do you look like a canvasser? Do you, when you're standing outside someone's I don't know, do you look pensive? Do you look earnest? Do you look creepy? You're like at somebody else's house. And I didn't know who this woman was. and somebody said, "Do you know who that is?" And I, no, I don't know. I said, that's Dolores Huerta. And I was like, Dolores Huerta, who is that? And they're like, how is it that you are in like this country and you don't know who Dolores Huerta was? She helped co-found the United Farm Workers Movement with Cesar Chavez. And having been married for 32 years, I could be extrapolating here, but I'm pretty sure she was the brains and the looks and the muscle behind the outfit. You know what I mean? She was, and so I went canvassing with Dolores Huerta, and what I learned from her was that details matter. Details matter. While I was aware of the cameras and trying to get ahead of what this idea was, she was when she would knock on a door and someone would open the door, she would look at them, really listen. She knew she had a mission to convey certain information about where their polling place was or if they were registered, whatever we were doing. And she would listen, and she was just um, nothing else in the world mattered to Dolores Huerta in the moment she was talking to someone other than who she was talking to and what she was there to talk about. So they're going to do a great job of Ross and the whole team are going to do a great job of sharing what it is, the mechanics of it. For some reason, every time I go to another campaign office, and I've been to I don't know 15 or so this cycle, and I've been to hundreds over my 53 years, and every single time I get this kind of excited, nervous feeling. And at a certain point after the hellos and the pictures and everything, it's like, are we going to make some phone calls? And you're like, yeah, let's do it. Let's make some phone calls. Do I remember how to operate a telephone? Do I remember like what am I talking about right now and why? And and it's just amazing to see um, the the commitment that volunteers have and the enthusiasm people have for doing this because um, it can be kind of monotonous, and you have to decide what of yourself you're going to bring to it. Why are you doing this right now? Why did you sign up to do this right now? Why are you on here? And all of political campaigning is a gut check at certain moments where you're like, why am I doing this? And then you think about the people whose healthcare will be affected. You think about in my case my three daughters and their reproductive uh, autonomy. You think about um, all of the kinds of people who will be impacted by the policies that our candidate is advancing. And in this case, I think it's fair to say, the concept of a contemporary, modern democracy. I mean, it doesn't take too much imagination to wonder how horrible it would be if Kamala Harris is not the next president of this country. So I'm happy to whatever you want, Ross, answer questions or just sign off to the next person. But I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of your team for putting this together, for doing what you did with White Dudes for Harris, for fundraising, and now it's like do the work time. So I really appreciate that you're doing it, and thanks for letting me sign in for my backyard.
Thanks, Sean. I really appreciate it in you. And just so you know, I like your Dodgers hat, but I think we didn't get to talk about last time is that I'm actually originally from Houston, and so I am also a Houston Astros fan. So I hope that doesn't change the way that you think about me. I see Kelly over here shaking his head. So with
I'm
that,
going to stay positive and constructive, and remember the Houston Astros from Bad News Bears fame in my childhood, in my youth, and not the current iteration of them. But at least there's a sport where there's rules that if you follow rules, you can like enjoy the game. It'd be nice to put some of that back in politics. But anyhow, as
I
you
I appreciate you. Um, all right, we are going to kick off our first training with the National Democratic Training Committee. Kelly Dietrich is the CEO. He is a longtime political operative. He is a partner in my day job, and I feel like I'm not out of school here. Also a friend. Really excited to have him here to talk to you all tonight about relational organizing, what it is, why it's so important, why it's so important for everyone to go out and have conversations with their neighbors. Kelly, all you.
This is amazing. Thank you very much for having me. I'm going to share my screen so that we can get this going. And are we good there? Excellent. All right, we're going to talk about relational organizing tonight, everybody. I am so impressed. It only took a few minutes for the White Dudes for Harris call to devolve into sports trash talking. So I would have taken the over and lost, but excited to be here tonight. We are going to be talking about relational organizing 101, and that's just a fancy way of saying how to contact the people in your network. My name is Kelly Dietrich. I started and run the National Democratic Training Committee. We are a completely independent democratic organization with one mission and goal. Any Democrat who wants to run for office, work on a campaign, or be a local leader, we believe should have access to the best practices, resources, and trainings to help them be as successful as possible. All of our 120 plus courses online are completely free and available. We run weekly, usually a couple hundred a year, online trainings on everything from so you think you want to run to relational organizing. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So thank you very much. I am from St. Louis, Kansas City, now in Chicago, a proud girl dad and a huge Kansas Jayhawk and Kansas City Chiefs fan. So if we really want to talk some trash, bring it at me. Of course, that means college basketball, not college football. We don't need to talk about that. My contact information is down at this slide, and I will put this back up at the end of the presentation for anyone who wants to get in touch with me or at traindemocrats.org. We'd love to help any way we can. Now, tonight is the first in a series of 6 trainings we're going to be doing. Thank you all very, very much for taking time tonight to learn how you can help elect Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States. This is not rocket science, but there are some best practices, and we want to show you how to do all of those. So tonight, we're going to do relational turnout and mobilizing your network. Next week, we're going to talk about using your personal story to connect with voters. Just like Sean mentioned, finding your why. We're going to talk a little bit about that later on as well. But your why is, why are you doing this work? We'll talk about ways to create effective calls for action, how to talk to people at a door and make certain you're getting that right pensive pose that Sean mentioned. That was the best take on canvassing ever, by the way. I loved that. And then finally, there'll be tips for phone banking and how to help supporters make a plan to vote. So that's the plan for the next 6 weeks. Please join us for any and all. Tell your friends to join us. We will be here. So let's get started with this evening. We have 2 goals tonight, everybody. We want you to learn how to be effective in turning your personal network out to vote. If we're going to win this election 48 days and a wake up from now, we need you to contact anyone and everyone you know. And to do that, we're going to help you understand the fundamentals of relational organizing. So let's start with a quick icebreaker. I know everybody's rolling their eyes. Don't worry, we're not going to break you out into small groups. I promise. Are you more likely to accept advice from a stranger or a person you already know and trust? Go ahead and throw your answers in the chat there. But this is important when we think about the ways that we make decisions, how people influence us. And I'm going to be referencing all of our moms later tonight. Let's talk about the motivating power of relationships. Now, I'm not going to, talking about relationships can be intimidating. That's not the kind of relationships we're talking about. Relational voter turnout is simply a tactic to tap into the social networks we all have. We want to challenge supporters of a candidate or a cause to spur their own network into coordinated action. So that means for the hundreds of us on this call, how do we connect with our friends, our family, our colleagues, our fellow parents at schools, right? This can be applied in many different ways, but tonight we're going to talk about getting out the vote. And in political terms, that's GOTV. And the core concept is simple but powerful. People are much more likely to be moved to action when that call comes from someone they know and share values with, right? Think about that for a minute. It's not just know, but share our values, right? That phenomenon it's social pressure. It's the cornerstone of what makes relational tactics work. Now, we put this together and we talked about social pressure in the notes here and how to describe to everybody. I was like, y'all, this is easy. Social pressure, us talking to our friends, our colleagues, right? We want to ask them to do something on a one-to-one level. And that applies to politics in a very simple way. We can call to action, right? I need you to come vote. That can happen in person. That can happen over text. You can do it through a phone call, right? We can ask people to, bring a friend. If you've been asked to bring a friend to vote, come to an event and bring 3 people, right? Or vote tripling. And that's going to be the primary focus of many of our examples today. Vote tripling is texting people in your contacts, getting them to commit to voting, and then encouraging them to get 3 more people to do the same thing you just did, right? Now, there are some very easy examples of this out there. If you ever went to the Joe Biden for President site, they would ask you to download and share social media examples. Super easy lift. And what is the point of this? Well, they want the people who know and trust you to see that you're supporting Biden-Harris, now Harris-Walz. Because people share your values. We look to others for that confirmation. So why do campaigns take this approach, and why are we taking your precious time tonight? On every campaign, whether you're running for school board or president of the United States, you have 3 limited resources. You have time. There are 48 days in a wake up till election day. No matter what happens, that's not changing. Money and people. How you use those 3. Do you take time to get more people? Do you take time to get more money? How you use those 3 to accomplish your goals directly affects your chances of winning your campaign. Relational organizing works for 3 reasons. 1, it's scalable. Just thinking here, I saw we had several hundred people on already. Let's say we have 400 people on. If each of us went and found 3 people, suddenly we're up to 1,200. 3 more, we're at 36. You can see this growing and growing very, very quickly. It's also highly cost effective. This costs the campaign absolutely nothing, right? That money can be spent on talking to the targeted swing voters we know are going to swing this election. And Sean, if Sean's still here, I'm with him. I don't understand how this is close, but I'm not a swing voter, right? And then finally, it's hyper-targeted and efficient. We know our networks better than anyone else. We know people who may or may not be open to this message. For the campaigns who use this tactic, like we're about to do for Harris, it's a win-win-win, right? Nothing but upside. All right. Now, let's talk about driving turnout in your network. The guiding principles behind relational turnout on an individual level are pretty intuitive, right? This is pretty easy. The steps you can take to put this in action are also straightforward, but we're going to go into detail on all of these, okay? We're also going to provide you with some tools to help you through this process. Okay. Let's talk about evaluating and assessing your network. Now, later in the session, we're going to share a template to help you organize this. But who makes up your community and how are they positioned to each other? So in this example, Cameron's a parent-teacher association member. He could talk to his fellow members of the PTA, explain to them why he's supporting Harris, asking them to join him, and then asking them to talk to their networks. And you can see how this grows exponentially. Now, of course, Cameron's not just talking to the PTA. He's talking to his Facebook friends, his Twitter friends, X, whatever you want to call it, right? Whatever social network of choice you have. For me, it would be the guys at my basketball game. It would be the guys at my poker night, right? It would be my family back home in Missouri. Getting those people to understand why I'm voting for Harris, supporting Harris, asking them to join me, following up, and then getting them to do the same to their people. Now, later on in one of our upcoming sessions, we'll take a deep dive into helping people make vote plans. But the key takeaway is that when you reach out to people in your network, for example, if you send them a text, you want to encourage them to act with as much specificity as possible. The when, the where, the how. These conversations aren't only about making a vote plan, but you want to convey the urgency for voters to get out as soon as possible. So whenever possible, you want to share information and links like the one here that can enable people to learn when, where, and how they can vote. Okay? So the reason behind this is part psychology, right? If we ask someone to vote and they say, yeah, I'll do that. Research shows that if they make a vote plan, if we start knocking down the barriers in advance, they're more likely to do it. Because when the day comes, the time actually comes to go vote, even if it's voting early, right? But let's say it's voting in person, like, yes, on election day, I'm going to go vote. Well, all of a sudden they have to think about, is it before work or after? Do I have time to pick up the kid from school? Where is the polling location? When do I need to be back for dinner, right? Where am I going to park when I'm there, or am I walking over? There's all of these different questions that come to mind when you ask someone to do something. So we want to make it as easy as possible for them. And we want to use social pressure. We want to use, this is, when I said we were going to talk about our moms, this is mom's guilt, right? This is guilting people, applying the pressure to get them to take an action we want, to get them to vote Harris Walz, right? You can see a little bit here that I did myself. It was so convenient and beat the heck out of waiting in line on election day, vote early, right? We want you not to be afraid to apply this pressure. Sean said before he was nervous knocking on the door. Well, of course, we're all nervous doing this stuff. You may have some anxiety now thinking about reaching out to your network. That's okay. It's totally fair. What you have to do is remember that it's okay to be a little awkward, and it's perfectly okay to practice, right? Sit in front of a camera on your phone, your partner, a trusted friend, and role play this out. Get comfortable with the words, or have ChatGPT help you write it, for crying out loud, right? Whatever it takes for you to be comfortable, we want you to do. And as you reach out to people, you're going to document the conversations you have, right? Now, you can do that on your own. Some campaigns have an app that they may use. NDTC has built an organizing spreadsheet, and at the end of this, we're going to have a QR code you can scan to get access to that. One of the things that we want you to remember is you're going to need to reach out to people multiple times. right? You're not going to get them just once. Call, text, be politely persistent. As you do this, that anxiety creeps back in, that nervousness keeps coming back up. Remember your why. Remember why you're doing this work. My why, I have an 11-year-old daughter. She just started 6th grade. I do this work because I want the future to be better and stronger for her than it was for me. I do this work to make certain she can make her own choices about her reproductive autonomy. I do this work because she is my why. And so if that means I have to get on the phone or step in front of a training where I'm a little nervous for a few minutes to help make the world a better place for her, I can do that. Find your why. Remember it. Draw on it. Hell, email me. I'll help you find it if you want. Everybody has a why. And don't be afraid to use it. And as you convey it, as you have these conversations, if you've texted someone for the 3rd time, you're calling and leaving that voicemail again. Yes, in 2024, voicemail is still a thing. Eventually, you're going to get people responding. Track it, right? You have to build your plan. Who all am I talking to? Then you have to execute, track it, and adapt it. Who do you have to go back and call again? Who said, yes, I'll go? Great. Follow up on election day. Follow up when mail-in ballots are delivered, right? Did you send it in? Did you go vote yet? Stay on top of them. We're doing this for our own whys and to encourage other people to go to their network, right? Because this scales very fast, right? So, sorry, getting a note here, making certain that I stay on. This scales very quickly. And if we can get everyone to do their networks, and if you got half the people to do their networks and they get half of their people to do their networks, pretty soon we're all over the country, right? This election is going to come down to that minutia. It's also going to help a lot of races down ballot. If you turn people out to vote for Kamala Harris, chances are they're likely going to vote for a lot more Democrats who are also on that ticket. That could mean the Senate race in Ohio or Montana, Texas, Arizona, right? It could mean the governor's race in North Carolina. I don't know if you all are familiar with the North Carolina Republican governor candidate, but that man is a piece of work. He is a scary individual who should not be anywhere near the levers of government. It's kind of like the whole MAGA movement at this point. It could also mean control of the House of Representatives, State House, City Council, and School Board. We always forget about how these down ballot races are so critically important for our country, our democracy. This type of relational organizing helps all of those. All right. Now, I mentioned that we had a tracker. We do. We've created a spreadsheet you can use to organize all the steps that we just covered, from documenting your personal network to logging into the conversations, to logging the conversations you have with them. Now, when you scan this QR code, it's going to take you to a Google spreadsheet. You can't write your information into that spreadsheet. You need to make a copy of that spreadsheet, okay? If you have trouble, you can email me. You can follow us at ndtc@traindems. We'll be happy to help you out. You can also, please, share this spreadsheet with anyone and everyone who can use it. And following this training, we're going to make certain to send you follow-up materials that includes a link to this spreadsheet. Okay? I'm going to pause a minute here to make certain that everyone had a chance to get that. And then I'm going to take some time to see if we have any questions. And I want to give a big thank you to Allie McWraith, who is part of my team, who is also here helping out. Allie, can you let me know if we have any questions in the chat? Would be great. Awesome. These can be questions about relational organizing. They can be questions about the Kansas Jayhawks' chances, questions about what to do in a poker game. Happy to answer any and all. Really, let's keep it to politics. Okay, what do I do if someone refuses to vote or gets in an argument? Totally fair. Totally fair. Guys, it's okay to get a no, right? We talk about this all the time at NDTC. Getting a no is actually a good answer because you know exactly where you stand, right? We talked before about every campaign has limited time, money, and people. Well, if you have to call the same person over and over and over, you don't know where you stand. If they say, yes, I'll go vote, wonderful. That, mission accomplished. If they, well, I don't know, can you call me back? That's taking more of your time. It's like, no, dude, I'm a Trump supporter. Okay, great. I'm out. You don't have to spend any more of your time with them. It's totally fine. And you know your network, right? Rob is asking the best way to talk with undecided voters. Rob, this is a great question. And we're going to have an upcoming training that's going to a lot more detail. But I will give you the Cliff Notes version here. We're Democrats. We really like to use logic and common sense, statistics, white papers, right? There's a joke. Democrats show up to a gunfight with white papers and statistics, right? If common sense and logic motivated voters and worked on people, the world would be a whole different place. You know what works with people? Stories, emotion, right? Talk about your why, share your values, right? The Republicans are really good at this. They use emotion all the time. Now, it's emotion that we think is horrible, right? It's fear, it's divisiveness, it's hate. We need to, though, learn from the opposition and use emotion ourselves, right? Stop using statistics to back things up and talk about the outcomes we want to see. So if you're talking to an undecided voter, let me tie this back again to what Sean was talking about when he went canvassing. If you're talking to an undecided voter and they ask you a question about an issue, well, where does she stand on the environment? They kind of want to hear what you have to say, but what they really want to do is they want to tell you where they stand. Give people a chance to explain themselves, right? Let them be heard. You do by no means need to be an expert about the campaign and know every policy and every stance that Harris has ever taken. You can bring it back to your why, right? If someone asks me about the environment, we go on, and look, I'm not an environmental expert, but I'll tell you, like, listen, I know climate change is real, and it means that my daughter is going to have a hell of a different daily life than I do, right? I'm not prepared for a world where the only animals we can see are in the zoo because it's too hot, right? Penguins and polar bears no longer exist. These are bad examples. You got to find the ones you're comfortable with and use emotion to convince people. Okay. I am going to make certain we get the next slide up. You are better positioned than any campaign to know your network. You know these people. You're not cold calling people you don't know, right? You know better than the campaign who's likely to vote and who's not. For the purposes of what we're doing here, if you think someone is likely to vote, call them anyway. Call them anyway. Make certain, right? Get them to make that vote plan. We need every vote this year. So don't be shy, okay? And to be most effective, after you've assessed that network, make certain you're asking them a specific action. You can ask them to vote early. You can ask them to vote on election day. What are you comfortable with? What do you want them to do, right? This is about you, your network, you being comfortable, okay? But make certain it's specific. Make them tell you no. And apply that gentle social pressure, that little bit of guilt, okay? And finally, track what you've done. How's it going? You can use the spreadsheet. You can use, there's an app called Reach that some of the campaigns are using. Whatever way you do it, please make certain you follow up. Life gets in the way of a lot of things. I may have told you I'm going to go vote, and then crap, the kid got sick and I had to take the dog to the vet, and all of these things start happening and it gets away from me. Call me, remind me, text me, right? Whatever it may be. All right, everybody. NDTC is always trying to get better at what we do here. One of the things I'm going to ask is, this is a trainer evaluation. Please scan that, fill it out. Let me know how I did. This is a brand new short version training for us made just for white dudes. We are eager to hear how we can get better. Okay. This is also going to be in the materials we send you after this call. All right. I'm going to give a minute there. And next week, we're going to talk about how to connect with voters through personal stories, right? How do we motivate the action? We touched on it a little tonight. We're going to go into it deep, deep, deep next week. Everybody, that's my contact info. Again, my passion, my joy is getting people involved in politics and democratic politics, right? So if you have questions, if you want to learn more, hit me up. I'm happy to talk to you. You can follow us at traindemocrats.org. All of our social handles are at traindems. All right, everybody. Really appreciate you taking time out tonight. I appreciate it. I appreciate it not just for what you're doing for our country, but what you're doing for my daughter and her future. Forward, not back. Hope and joy. 48 days in a wake up. Ross, thank you so much for having us. We're excited to be here all week, or the next 6 weeks, not all week.
Thanks, Kelly. That was excellent. Really, really appreciate you doing this. And we're really excited about our partnership with the National Democratic Training Committee. Next up, and last but not least, is somebody who I have known for a very, very long time, who used to be a colleague, is a friend. He is now the Battleground States Director at the Harris-Walz campaign. He's here to do a couple of things. He's going to give us a little bit of the state of the race, and he's going to talk about why it's so important to volunteer for the campaign tonight. Dan, with that, I'll kick it to you.
Thanks, Ross. Great to see you. And Kelly, thank you for getting everyone trained up so well, as you always do at the Training Institute. Very, very helpful to get people what they need to make sure they're out in the field talking to voters the right way, and it's massively important. And thanks for having me, guys. Great to be here. I am Dan Cannonen. I'm the Battleground Director for the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz campaign. We're working very hard here in Wilmington, Delaware, and with teams across the country to win this very close election. So I wanted to start by saying a couple things about the state of the race. I know you've gotten good training so far. I know you've gotten a little bit of a pump up from folks on this call, and are in good hands with Ross and company in terms of how to apply yourselves to this election. But let me begin by talking about what the race looks like today and how important it is that you do apply yourselves to this election. We have had tremendous enthusiasm since Kamala Harris became first the presumptive nominee and now the nominee. We've seen literally hundreds of thousands of people want to join the campaign. We've seen her step up in every big moment. She crushed it at convention. She crushed it at the rallies, on the ticket tour with Tim Walz across the country with huge crowds, 15,000 in Detroit, 10,000 in Atlanta, 20,000 in Phoenix. The list goes on and on across the battlegrounds. She's been on fire. And most recently, she absolutely dominated Donald Trump in that debate performance, just destroyed him. She was confident, she was smart, she was on message. She made it very clear that things like the destruction of Roe v. Wade and the end of reproductive rights and freedoms in this country, as we know it, is at his feet. This is his ownership of this. And that was evident in her impassioned response to that exchange, which became one of our best ads coming out of that debate. Literally, when your candidate is so good, you can take the ad, just 30 seconds of them speaking unedited, and put that on television as your ad. That's a really good sign. So she stepped up. She's doing awesome. The team is doing awesome. The enthusiasm in the ground is incredible. But despite all that, despite the fact that we've basically had what I think is a winning week, a winning day every single day since she became the nominee, the race is still extremely tight. It is still basically a toss-up race, and it's a tied race, or in fact, we're even behind a little bit, truthfully, in a couple of places that we have to win. And there are 7 states in this country. There are more that we're competing in, to be sure, but there are 7 states in particular that have just been toss-ups in basically every election cycle the last, half decade or more. In 2018, in 2020, in 2022, all these places had governor's races, Senate races, and the presidential race that were decided by less than a point. All of them. North Carolina, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Those 7, every one of them has been within a point, at least of one of those top of the ticket races. Many of them were within a half a point or even a quarter point. Arizona and Georgia, 11,000, 14,000 votes, less than a quarter point each, separating the candidates. Wisconsin, where I am from, 20,000 votes, less than a half a percent, separating the candidates. Pennsylvania, 80,000 votes, about 0.8%, separating the candidates. North Carolina, which we didn't win, but we lost very narrowly, 1.3 percentage points, 74,000 votes. Again, really, really close. And these states have been close for governor and for Senate as well, every cycle. The thing I want you guys to understand, and I think you probably know this talking to your friends and family and folks, from outside your political circles, is that there's more strength in Donald Trump's coalition than we want to believe sometimes. He's just got more there than we want to admit. And so we have to understand the races are going to be close because of that strength of that coalition. And we've got a great coalition as well, but there's political gravity. And the way I see it is that we have to win that last mile that gets you over the finish line. And the good news for us is that we have a plan that we've been executing all year since January and February, building teams in battleground states, first dozens and then hundreds and now thousands. And that infrastructure is something Donald Trump does not have. We've got 2,200 staff in battleground states, more than 320 offices in those battleground states. And so that volunteer activity, including the folks on this call, the thousands of folks on this call, that is being channeled into actual action of the type Kelly was describing that we know empirically works to win elections. So we're taking the tools, we're taking the enthusiasm and energy, and we're turning it into something that actually moves voters, but that requires you guys. If we knock the doors, if we make the phone calls, if we engage people online, if we have people in states to do things like cure ballots when a ballot has a mismatched signature or is missing a date, but can legally be cured if you can get to the voter in time to correct it, that's just hard work, guys. That's just the work on the ground to move a vote one at a time. But that's how you win an election that is going to be this close. All of these states are tied, and not just statistically tied. I'm saying like 48-48 in a lot of them. And so the work you're doing in any one of those battlegrounds, every single vote has the potential to be decisive, and every one of those states has the potential to be the tipping point state that decides this election. So I feel really good because I think our candidate is incredible. I think the team is incredible. I think the organization is strong and doing the right things to win a close race. And we have a campaign, unlike Trump, that believes in engaging people to talk to other voters, to carry that message forward and to do the kind of things you need to win a close race. They're not doing that stuff. So I think we have that advantage, right? It is a bit, little bit. I'm a Wisconsin guy, so it's a bit like the fullback dive play, on 3rd and 1 or 4th and goal, and you just need to get 2 yards. I think that we've got the team that knows how to get 2 yards. But that's where we are in this race. And make no mistake, as good as stuff feels sometimes, as good as stuff might look in your circles online, on your Twitter feed or your Instagram feed, or if you're on TikTok, what that looks like, as good as it looks, remember, we're all living in the same algorithmic rabbit hole where the stuff that we're seeing is our own circles, our own friends, our own self-reinforcing things. And there's a whole nother rabbit hole out there that looks very, very different. And they're also approaching 50%. So we need y'all to do this, to bring a friend, to trust in that plan, and to understand that those doors knocked, those phone calls made, the ballots cured, the registration to expand the electorate a little bit where we can. That is the stuff that wins tight races. And so thank you for being in the fight with us. Thank you for bringing more people to this fight so we can get this thing done. And I'll tell you, you individually or your friends, family, whoever else, if you go to the website, go.kamalaharris.com, that is go.kamalaharris.com. At that site, you can volunteer seamlessly. Sign up for a phone bank, a canvas shift, to engage people online in any way you want to. Go.kamalaharris.com. We will take you in, we'll work with you and make sure you're part of this program, this coalition, and that is going to make all the difference in the world. I want to make sure that we leave nothing on the field on November 5th. So thanks for being with us. Thanks for all you do. And Ross, thank you for bringing together this awesome group of people committed to protecting the freedoms and rights of this country and moving us forward.
Thanks so much, Dan. Honor to have you on. Thank you for making the time. We know how busy you are right now trying to help us win this election, and thank you for your service to the country. For those who don't know, Dan has been on the campaign for a very long time, so we should all we all owe Dan and all the other folks working on the campaign a real thank you for the really good work that they're doing. With that, we are going to honor the fact that we said that this would be an hour. We've actually come in a little bit under. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who hopped on. Thank you to our credible speakers. We're going to be doing these things every week from now until the election. So please tell your friends about it. Please tell your family about it. These are about getting skills, getting plugged into different parts of the campaign. After this, you're going to get a bunch of resources from us, including different opportunities to volunteer, including the Harris Walls campaign. We'll get you information on how to volunteer for congressional and Senate candidates. We'll get you information on how to volunteer for down ballot candidates. We'll also get you information on what to do if you don't live in a swing state. Everybody has a role to play in making sure that we win this historic election. So with that, I want to say thank you so much to everyone who got on. Thank you to the folks who are running this call behind the scenes. We really appreciate you. And thank you so much to you for all that you're doing. And I look forward to seeing you over the next 6 or 7 weeks. Have a great evening, y'all.